to the trials. I entered for the trials and I had everything in place. But unfortunately, I got injured. And as a result of that, I had to withdraw from the championship. And so I did everything I could to get better. But when I realized that I wasn't healthy enough, it was the right time for me to say goodbye. It didn't make sense for me to contest the trials not being 100%.
Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Catch the rebroadcast of Tokyo Prime, The Journey, with host Donald Oliver and co-host George Davis. VCB on the heels of her retirement, along with MVP coach Paul Francis, are two of the main guests on this week's episode. Catch it 9 p.m. if you're in Jamaica, 10 Eastern Caribbean time tonight on SportsMax. So, Lance, of course, this interview, leaving us with so much emotions after hearing from VCB herself. It's one thing to hear the news, being reported, but when you hear it from the horse's mouth, of course, a lot of emotions. You have interviewed her many times before. Talk to us about, the entire her leaving the arena of track and field.
Well, first of all, let me say that looking at the interview, she looked comfortable in her skin. She looked as if she knows that after 2 decades of representing Jamaica and the Caribbean at the highest level with immense success, that she knows she has given her all to the sport. And she may be leaving with a heavy heart, but that didn't come across too much in the interview. And, initially when the announcement was made that she was retiring, we had suspected that an injury could have triggered it, but she didn't say that in her first announcement. So it becomes clear here on Tokyo Prime, The Journey, that she confirms that she had an injury just ahead of the trials, and that precipitated her decision to quit.
Definitely, and of course a woman who's given so much to Jamaica, so much to those that love the sport. Her retiring, of course, puts a lot of pressure. She leaves a legacy for the younger ones to follow.
Yeah, and you know what? Because she had started at such a young age, Mariah, remember she had run in the 2000 Olympic Games in Sydney on the relay leg. And that is 21 years ago. That's 21 years ago. She was 18 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of young athletes looking at Veronica Campbell's career would be inspired and motivated by the fact that she is such a champion athlete.
Yeah.
And I think she leaves at the right time, because at 39 years old, obviously not the force of yesteryear, she has made the right decisions to step away at this time, especially because there are others at the moment carrying the Jamaican flag with so much quality. Anyway, the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, the J3As, well, they have named a 62-member squad for the Tokyo Olympics. Much of the talk around the squad concerns the men picked for the 110-meter hurdles. The men who took the top 3 places at the recent trials, Ronald Levy, Damian Thomas and Hansel Parchment, have been given seats on the plane to Japan. Now, Philip Lemonius, who is a University of Arkansas athlete who placed 4th in the final at the trials, has been named as a reserve. Now, that means there is no place for the reigning Olympic champion Omar McLeod or Rashid Broadbell, the 2 fastest Jamaicans so far this year. McLeod could only manage 8th in the final at the trials, his race falling apart after he struck the first hurdle. We are joined by the president of the J3As, Garth Gayle, as he explains the rationale, first of all, behind these and other selections. Garth, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. As usual, always great to have you on.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and
yeah. Or well, let me... Yes, and television, right across the Caribbean, and in the tri-state as well in Canada. You're global, Garth. Let me start here, though. Can you confirm for us that Broadbell was granted medical exemption, as was reported?
No, he was not granted medical exemption.
Well,
he sought, his handlers, or rather his management team, sought medical exemption on his behalf.
Okay, so he didn't get the exemption that he wanted, but the J3As would have been aware that he was hurt, though.
Yes, we have been informed. Yeah, we were informed of his injury.
Okay, having not got the exemption, though, would his world ranking at the time be a factor because of how highly placed he was in the world?
If it was that he would have been considered by the selection committee, his ranking would have been very important and significant, yes.
Yeah. But the fact that he wasn't granted a medical exemption quashes his hopes entirely.
You are saying that?
I'm asking. The fact that he wasn't granted a medical exemption dismisses any hopes of him getting in belatedly. I'm just trying to get...
The selection committee reviewed the application, and through our medical commission, who was very much present, the decision was a collective decision that it did not meet or did not warrant consideration at the time for the Olympic team.
All right, well, as it turns out then, let's move to the race itself, and the disappointment that the reigning Olympic champion would have experienced must be gutted, Garth, having coming to the event as the reigning Olympic champion and considered certainly among the top two in the world at the moment. A lot of social media comments coming out of his disappointing finish there. We know hurdling is a technical event. He smashed into the first hurdle and failed to recover. Was there any chance, based on your rules, that McLeod could have been considered for selection?
He ran the race, or he attempted to the start of the race, and at the end, sadly, I really want members to understand, from my personal standpoint, it's somebody I admire, but the rules of competition, he started and was unable to finish the race.
He said on social media within 24 hours of his disappointment, Garth, that he had cramps and it was difficult for him to compete so early in the morning. He even criticized the organizers for not having the semifinals and the finals on the same day. There has been some criticism that he should have probably asked for a medical exemption in the morning when he felt cramps and didn't feel that he could race. Was that an option that was available to him at the time?
Yes.
It was?
Yes.
And if under those circumstances, you just said the medical commission examined the Broadbell case and decided not to give him a medical exemption, what would Omar McLeod's chances have been with a medical exemption request mere hours before the event?
Hypothetically, then it would have created a different scenario and a different situation, but that was not the case, so I would not want to comment on what could have been an hypothetical situation, but rather to speak to the actual situation.
All right, can we move on to the men's 400 meters now? Because I think you would understand, Garth, that one will take a little bit of explanation, because the first and third place finishers at the trials were not selected to contest the 400 meters in Tokyo, the individual 400 meters. Can you explain the procedure with that decision?
Athletes are first required to attain the standard for their event, their respective event or event, and at the competition, then that now also would bear out in regards to the actual finishing or position that they would have attained at the end of the competition. The 400 meters, we had 3 of our athletes who would have attained the standard. One opted not to be considered for representation. One did not face the starter in the final, having qualified, and one actually ran and finished 4th. In review, the second place athlete at the time of the selection committee meeting was higher ranked than the winner, and so he would have gotten the notch because of his position. We rank it because it's first year standard or having achieved the standard and having not then achieved the standard, then it would be a ranking. And so Christopher Taylor at that time would have been higher ranked than the winner, Sean Bailey. I'm happy now to inform the public as we will be reviewing the new information that we are currently receiving from World Athletics that Sean Bailey is now, having been now placed in the ranking system and would have attained a position to be a part of the pool for consideration for the Olympic Games. So we are pleased about that.
Yes. Sean Bailey, who actually won at the trials, you're saying he'd not be considered for the pool. Are you saying for an individual position?
Yes. By virtue of the latest ranking,
yes,
we would have received from World Athletics.
Yes.
This ranking, might I say, is now, it will be closed by 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. And so we are with the J3 from the executive standpoint, but following from the selection committee. We'll review first from the selection committee and then a new recommendation to be made to our executives for those who will actually be our standard bearers in the men's 400 meters, the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah. Can you say then, Garth, given the new guidelines with the World Athletics rankings now being a part of the selection process, has this made selecting teams easier and more palatable for fans looking on?
I'm not going to say yes, and I'll tell you why. It is heavily favored the Europeans than us in the Caribbean, and simply because of the weighting of the point. We would have to send our athletes through their agent managers into competition in Europe for them to be able to garner those type of points. When the points awarded for local events are way down in the criteria points. And so we always encourage our athletes to attain the standard, and once you have attained the standard, you can't be denied a place.
Yeah, but how fair is that though, Garth? Because to be quite honest, in this hemisphere and in the Caribbean, there are so many world-class athletes in many events stronger than the Europeans. So isn't it something that your organization would want to challenge World Athletics on, to increase the weighting of performances in this side of the world as against what it is now, where the European performances carry so much more weight?
I would like to share that while I was a member of the NACA Council, the last NACA Council, this was a matter to which we fully discussed with the members of the then IAS, now World Athletics Competition Commission. We raised serious concerns in regards to the weighting of points that are given to our regional events vis-a those in Europe. Sad to say that the situation continues, and I think because in the Caribbean, we have proven ourselves worthy adversaries, and most of our athletes have gained individual standards, and that has not made it become a bone of contention or a topic for conversation. Now it has come home to roost that we are now feeling the pinch of it, because athletes have attained, or who have attained the standard, are not in the best of shape at this moment. And because of the pandemic and the travel restrictions, especially into Europe, getting a Schengen visa and going across, ports were being closed. As you know, we would have had to cancel and could not have participated as we wanted in the world relay, and that affected us badly. Happy to say that all of our relay teams have now qualified and will be in Tokyo. But back to the main issue of the individual event, many of our athletes would have not had that opportunity to travel into Europe, as well as the number of events that usually would have been staged in the Grand Prix and other circuits were not as available as in the past.
Definitely understanding what you're saying there, Garth. So as we get ready to wrap this segment, I'm going to ask you from a personal standpoint, how pleased are you with the Jamaican athletes that will be representing at the Tokyo Olympics? What do you think your chances are?
Our chances are very good. Our chances are just as good as any other athlete that would be entered. We would have done our best in preparing our athletes through their coaches, would have been preparing their various athletes to perform. And I am confident, and especially with showing at our national championship, that we will be a force to reckon with in Tokyo.
Garth, Gayle, thanks for talking to us here on the SportsMax Zone and clarifying some of the issues that a lot of fans on the streets are asking. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so he explained there, Mariah, and it's very important that the World Athletics ranking system that they have and the weight of performances given the quality or the level of the event. So Sean Bailey, the 400-meter man who won the 400 at the national trials over the weekend, he competes collegiately in the United States. And the fact is his performances in that landscape cannot be measured in the same way that you measure the performances of the athletes on the Diamond League circuit in Europe. So he's like a victim of the circumstances of things. But based on what he just told us, that the World Athletics have revised or updated their rankings list, and he is now in. So having won and then not been picked as one of the individual performers, Garth Gayle is now saying that that is being reviewed, and he is now in the mix to probably get a spot in the pool as one of the individual performers, because his relay spot had already been guaranteed.
Yeah, well, some good news for him, and we're looking forward to follow that story.
Yeah, back with more on the Zone after this.